Collectible Omegas come in all shapes and sizes, so on Fresh from the Showcase, I'm going to show a really interesting and unique one coming up next. Fresh from the showcase here at SwissWatchExpo, this new arrival we just got is an Omega Seamaster Bullhead edition, one of the most obscure watches in the Omega line. Really unique. Right away, it is based off of the shape of the case, so I'll just pick it up briefly and show you there. This is almost sort of a cushion slash triangular shaped case with both the chronograph pusher and the crown on the top at 12 o'clock. That's what makes the Bullhead one of the most unique shapes in any sport watch I've ever seen. As far as I know, Omega is only the only one to have done it. The original Bullhead, this is an homage piece, of course. The original Bullhead came out in 1969 as part of both the DeVille and Seamaster line at the same time. This line was sort of made apropos of absolutely nothing at all. It doesn't commemorate anything specific. It was just a really unique shape of a Seamaster, and it was universally derided when it came out and was a horrible seller, and they quietly discontinued it shortly afterwards. So sort of a very small footnote in all of Omega's history, but because Omega fans are big nerds and history buffs, Omega had to bring it back. So 44 years later in 2013, they reintroduced the Bullhead as a limited edition piece for people who are enamored by the shape of the case. And I will tell you, I count myself amongst one of these people. Would this be a watch I wear every day? Of course not. But if you've got the money, if you've got the desire to add to your Omega collection something really unique that no other watch manufacturer is making, and not many Omega collectors are going to get their hands on just due to the sheer limited number of watches they made in the Bullhead line, I think you're going to have a really unique addition to your collection. And I say that knowing full well this watch isn't going to be for everyone. But it does have a very prominent 43 millimeter case in this Bullhead shape. 43 millimeters at its widest part. It actually tapers down to, I believe, about 27 here at its thinnest part, but this is still a great wrist presence. It's about 14, 15 millimeters thick, so a really good diving chronograph. It's got a good amount of size to it. One thing that doesn't really make this a diving chronograph, and one of the things that was unique to the Bullhead line, is it doesn't have a diving bezel. This actually has a 12-hour rotating bezel, which is manipulated by the secondary crown here at 6 o'clock. And one thing that really surprised me about this is that this is actually a smooth turning bezel here. I was expecting something to hard set every hour, but you can actually, turn this smoothly and relatively easily if you wanted to adjust the time on this while the chronograph was still running. That seems to be the original purpose of this watch, but of course, this was not meant to be a practical diver's piece at all. This was just meant to be a really unique sport watch, and that it was, even if it wasn't very popular in the late 60s. The dial, this is sort of a depressed dial that's in here. It does have a sapphire crystal as a modern sports piece. This has a sport chic dial, which is what Omega calls it. It does have what they call the, I believe, the Clos de Paris pattern here on the inner ring of it. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that horribly, but I never pretend to be able to speak French. So this is very reminiscent of something you would see on either a Cartier watch or maybe even an Audemars Piguet, but it is definitely sort of a highlight here of this dial. You do have, of course, your cream-colored lume markers here. They do glow very bright. This is still very much a sport watch, as well as a 12 o'clock red second hand and sweep chronograph. And the two chronograph registers is what makes this unique to the Bullhead. This has always been a two chronograph register watch, and I love that they changed essentially nothing about this except the color. I believe the proportions are the same. Both line up with the two chronograph registers at 6 and 12, date window at 3, and of course the 12-hour inner ring bezel here that you can turn. All these were kept exactly the same from the original Bullhead line. So this is a great example of a historical piece where they basically made it a more modern looking color, a little sleeker looking, but kept everything that made the Bullhead intact here. So it's a great size, really unique. And as someone who doesn't really wear large watches or diving chronographs and is left-handed, it's great that you can manipulate this just as easily from either hand, depending on what your dominant hand is. Otherwise, this has a beautiful looking rubber strap here with the red stitching. I'm a big fan of this. Real sporty, but can dress up nice. It's something that would at least look well with sleeves. And this beautiful deployant here. Omega makes these so incredibly well. And I do love even the unique sort of hitch here that is on the upper side of the clasp. Again, this is such an incredibly well-made watch, especially for the price that you're getting this at. This is a limited edition of 669 pieces, that of course being a reference to the original production year of 1969. So again, if you want this, and this is a completely unworn example, there are not many of these for sale at all, not many of them really available, whether you're looking at the more modern version or you're trying to get your hands on the original, which is probably selling at auctions for an absolutely egregious price. But this is one of the most unique offerings that Omega had. Of course, it's a bit of an esoteric piece for fans of their sport lines, but that's why they didn't make many of these. So the demand amongst people who love them is still incredibly high. So if you want to get your hands on this piece, do not wait. And of course, if this is a little strange for your taste or you're looking for a more traditional Speedmaster, we've got the greatest selection of Omegas on the website. And I'm not even getting into Rolex for this video, but you already know we've got them. So give us a call, shoot us an email today at SwissWatchExpo.com.